Hi, I'm Michael Dresser. I'm a relationship and intimacy coach. And in a previous video, I talked about the difference between permission and consent and why getting permission is not the whole story when it comes to creating consent. And here, I want to talk about permission from a slightly different angle. And I'd like to start by inviting you to think about how much permission you give yourself to want the things that you want. And take a second to think about how often you put off or postpone something that you want rather than prioritizing it, or deny yourself something that you want because maybe you're worried about what others might think about it, or even just settling for slightly less than your ideal or watering down what you want so you kind of get something but it's not really the best version of what it could be. Giving yourself permission to have needs and wants and desires is often something that feels unfamiliar or even challenging. And that's not surprising. I mean, just think about how many times you've heard the phrase, "I want doesn't get." There's a lot of conditioning behind not giving ourselves permission to want something. And especially when it comes to physical or emotional desires, we've been taught not to trust our bodies when they tell us that they want something. How about the number of times that you've put off getting a drink right away when you notice that you're thirsty, or not going to sleep when you're tired? We've all done it, and these are really good examples of just how subtle and deep this runs. You know, water and sleep are pretty fundamental to our survival, and yet we've learned not to trust our bodies, to ignore our needs, even with something so important. And needs are one thing. You don't meet your needs and it could seriously impact your health and your well-being. But desires, that's a whole lot trickier because it can be easier to fool yourself that your desires are optional, that they're not worth paying attention to. And so what do I mean by desires? I'm not just talking about desire in a sexual sense here. For me, desires are the things that you genuinely want for yourself, as opposed to what you think you're supposed to want or what somebody else wants you to want. Desire is an impulse that comes from inside you. And when your desires are met, it's about you getting resourced. And although sometimes you can do that for yourself, we are essentially relational creatures. And so more often than not, we need another person to help us to get our desires met. And there's also something incredibly nourishing about somebody else being willing enough to put themselves aside for a little while and prioritize you and your desires. It's a real gift. But here's where the little voice of self-judgment or self-censorship can pop up again, making you feel selfish for getting something that you want without having to give something in return. Again, we've often learned that things that you want come with strings attached, or that it's not okay to receive something that's just about you. But when you truly receive a gift which is for you alone, having someone put their desire aside for a while and attend to yours is possibly one of the best ways to achieve a feeling of self-worth and self-acceptance. And that's definitely something most of us don't get enough of. But what happens if you don't feel you have permission to access your desires? Which, let's be honest, is probably the norm for most of us. Well, when you're not able to be honest about what you need for yourself, those needs and desires don't just go away. We're resourceful. We'll often try to meet a desire by sneaking it in under the guise of doing something for somebody else. Have you ever given somebody a shoulder rub because you secretly hoped you'd get one in return? It's back to that strings attached experience. And now it's one thing learning to become more present to what you want or don't want. That's definitely an important first step. But being able to trust your desires enough to take action for them or ask somebody else to take action, that's the crucial second part of the equation. And that's something which doesn't come easily for most of us. And this is where I can help. So when you step into a coaching space with me, you step into a space where you have permission to desire and to feel without judgment or shame. And when you're in a space that feels safe enough like that, then you can learn how to trust your desires and have the opportunity to experience how it feels when your desires and needs can be met, to experience that nourishment, that gift. Ultimately, working with me is about learning to believe that what you want matters. And when you believe that what you want matters, it's a game changer to how fully you can step into healthier relationships. Like and subscribe below to stay up to date with more of my tips and resources, and check out my website to see some of the ways that I can help you create more connection with your own body and bring more permission to your desires.